Hi there, and welcome to this lecture. In this video, we will look at some very useful built-in Perl functions that you will most definitely be using quite often when writing Perl code. Some of these functions, such as delete, keys, values, push, shift, unshift, pop, scalar, and others, we already saw in previous lectures, so I won't go into details on them. However, and rest assured, there are plenty others worth mentioning, some of the popular ones being, for example, map. So what map does, it basically executes a code block for every item you give it. For example, we could introduce a new array, which is called list. And what it's going to do, it's actually going to produce a new list with modified items. Now, if we say that my list is going to contain the cat, dog, save this, and we use a function such as uppercase for UC, we can provide the current item context in the map. And the current context, as we saw before, is defined by $_. So if we save this, run our script, so Perl script.pl, nothing happens because of course we need to also print our list, which is the new list. So say dumper, and then let's reference this for easier readability and give it a new list. Rerun the script. Oops, we also need to add a semicolon. Run this again, we're going to see cat and dog. So our original list contained lowercase cat, dog. We gave our map function a block of code which says uppercase every element you give to this map function, which is the list of our two strings, and produce a new list, which now contains uppercase cat and dog. Now do take note that opposite to using for loops, if we use map function, it's actually not going to modify the items in place. If I print out the list, the original list we provided to map function, I'm going to see that it still contains lowercase cat and dog. So it actually copies every item and returns a new list. In this case, we are assigning the list of items to a new array called new list. Of course, we could also modify this further by saying my item, which is a local item, uppercasing the current context, assigning it to this variable. And then let's say we want to append something to the item, such as _new, and then we want to return the item. We're going to see, oops, actually we need to print out the new list because we're printing out the original list, which as you can see still hasn't changed. And we're going to see cat, the uppercase version of our initial string, which we then use to append a string with _new, and then we're returning that item. Now another useful function we can use is called grep. So grep is kind of similar to map, but not really. What it does, it takes list as well, similar to map. However, instead of modifying the item in place, it's going to compare something, and if it evaluates to true, it's going to return that item to a new list. So let's see this by example. So if I replace map with grep, remove all of this code logic, and let's say I wanted to return the item if it equals to cat. So I could use the current context, $_ equals to cat. And basically what you provide to grep is an expression, which when it evaluates to true, is going to return that item in a given list. If it's going to evaluate to false, it's just going to drop it. So if we save this, rerun our script, we're going to see cat printed in our new list. This is because we went through all the items in the list, compared if this equals to cat, and if it does, we're returning it from the grep function and it builds a new list. We can also say if this equals to cat, this being the current context, or the current context equals to dog, we want to return it. We print this again, now we see cat and dog in our new list, because the first element matched from this condition, and then the second element matched from the right-hand side condition. Now another useful function you can use is called split. And what split does, it basically takes a pattern and a string, and it splits that given string based on that pattern, and returns multiple parts the string was split into. So let's look at example. If I say my parts equals split keyword, then we're going to give it a pattern, which is going to be, let's say, letter E, and we're going to give it a string, which is test. Let's also extend it with another test for this to become clearer. We save this and rerun our script. Oops, of course we also want to print this out, so if we say dumper and part, save this, run the code, we're going to see these parts, which is t, st _ t, and st. So why is that? Well, this is because we're saying our pattern we want to split on is the e, but we don't want to preserve the e, we just want to split on it. So basically our string becomes t, part 1, then the part 2 is st followed by t up until the second e, then the last part, which is st. So our string got split into 3 parts by the given pattern letter e. Now you can also do cool things such as, for example, if you give no pattern whatsoever, what's going to happen is that your string is actually going to get split on every single character. And sometimes this can be quite useful if you want to reverse strings, modify them in particular way, or any other scenario. But it's just good to know if you don't give it a pattern with the split function, it's just going to split on every single letter in that string. Now the next function we're going to look at is called join. And join is opposite to the split. So instead of splitting a string into multiple patterns, it's going to actually join a list of strings into a single string. So let's say that we want to redefine our parts, which is going to be quote words A, B, C, D, E. We save this, and instead of the parts, we're going to say full string equals or join keyword followed by a string what we want to join on. So let's say underscore and followed by the list. So if we replace parts with full string and we run our code, oops, actually it's not called list anymore, it's called parts. Do this again, we run the code. It's going to be ABCDE joined with underscore. Of course, you can just apply empty string and rerun this again, and that's just going to be ABCD joined all together. Now, some other useful functions are UC for uppercase that we saw before, but we can also use LC for lowercase. And we can uppercase first characters or lowercase first character. Let's see an example. So if I can have my test equals cat, and I want to say that my cat equals, you see, uppercase test, replace full string with a test variable, save this, run the code, is going to be uppercase cat, and we already saw this before, this is nothing new to us. However, we can also uppercase the cat, and we can use LC for lowercase. If we print this out again, instead of printing out uppercase cat, is going to print lowercase version of the cat, because we're running through this LC function. Now we can also use LC first. If we rerun this, we're going to see that it's lowercasing the first character. Everything else is still uppercase. Now if we reverse this and we have a string which is cat, and we say UC first, oops, UC first, rerun our script, and as you might have guessed it, instead of the first character being lowercase, it's actually going to be the first character uppercase. Now, what if we wanted to find the length of a string? Well, we can use this keyword called length. So if I assign this to my size and remove this part, and if we print out size, we're going to see 3. So what the length does, it counts the characters in your string. So our string consists of 3 characters, CAT, so it prints out 3. If we say cats and dogs, save this, rerun the code, it's going to be 11 characters. Now we can also use a function such as rand, which is going to give us a random number from the given number to the function. For example, if I say rand and give it a number of 10, if I save this, rerun the code, oops, looks like we're still printing size, but we want to print the test variable. If I rerun the code, it's going to give a decimal number. And this is where another function could actually become handy. So if you wanted to convert a number without decimal places to an integer, you can use a function called int. We wrap our random function given 10 with int function and rerun our code, we're going to get 6. So thing to note is that, for example, if I give it a number such as 4.5, it's going to give us 4. If I would give a number such as 4.6, it's still going to give us 4. Because what int does, it doesn't give the floor, meaning the lowercase version after decimal points, or the uppercase. It just removes the second part of a decimal number. So even if you have something like 4.99999, if you save this, rerun it, it's still going to be 4. Some more interesting functions is you can use keywords such as sleep. So sleep is going to stop the execution of your code for the given amount of seconds. So if I say sleep 2 for 2 seconds, and then I want to print something like I woke up, and save this and run our code, we run it, nothing happens, and boom, we got I woke up printed to our console. So sleep stops the execution of our code for the given amount of seconds. Now going back to strings, we can also get substrings of the given value. For example, if I say my value equals substring with sub str, and then I give a string such as cat and value 0 and 1, save this, and then we say the value, save the code, run it. It's going to give a letter C, you can see here. So what this does, the substring basically takes a string, it takes the index of that string and how many characters at that index you want to capture afterwards. So if I said 1 as the middle number and 2 as the last number and run the script again, is going to print out at. And this is because we're looking at index 1, which is A, and then after that specified index is going to take 2 characters, which is AT, and that is exactly what we're seeing printed out in the console. Now, you might also be interested in epoch time, and to retrieve that value, you could, let's say time. So we're basically calling say function a value of time function. We run this, we're going to see the seconds elapsed in epoch time. We rerun this, we see this was 7 seconds ago, and so on. So this is it for this video. We looked at some of the more popular functions used in Perl. This list is nowhere near complete. Make sure to check the lecture notes with reference to resources where you can find more information on the functions we looked at and plenty others. I hope you found this video useful, and I will see you at the next one.